Well, I'm gonna keep the questions moving along just so that we can also see your studio. But I want to talk a little bit more about your background. You've already talked about a little bit, but if maybe you want to talk about what has been, I think one of the questions I have, like one of your biggest accomplishments or something that you're really proud of, like, wow, that was a really cool moment that I experienced.
I think one of the really cool moments was after I got out of graduate school. I was submitting paintings to different shows, and I got accepted to a show called Mid-America, and it was a show in which paintings traveled from art museum to art museum for a year.
Wow.
And it ended up, I was living at the time in St. Louis, and it came to the St. Louis Art Museum. And every day I'd go and I'd sit on a bench and I'd stare at the painting. And finally, after about 2 weeks, a guard came up to me and he said, "Ma'am, is that your painting?" And I said, "Yes." And so we engaged about the painting. He loved the painting, and it was an abstraction. And so it was fun. And I'm hopeful. My desire is to have my paintings in art museums. I mean, I like them being in galleries and stuff, but I want them to be in museums. And my desire is to have one in the North Carolina Museum of Art.
Yeah.
That'd be a big accomplishment.
What painting was in the St. Louis one? Is that on your website?
No. What I keep doing with my website is trying to update it and put the most current things, because that painting sold. And the things that sell, I take down, because it's happened too often where somebody's gone to my website, wanted a piece, and I've had to say, "Gee, I'm sorry, that's gone." And then suggest other things for them, but it doesn't ring well.
That makes sense. Well, for those that might be curious, like myself, of what it looks like, could you describe it of
the painting?
What that looks like? Yeah.
It was an oil, and at the time I was, again, vivid colors, and I was doing these almost washes, watered down, actually linseed oil and stuff like that was mixed in, and I was dripping the painting, and then in the center was a band of a color that looked like you could dive through the drips and go anywhere you wanted to. And it was fairly large. I think it was about 48 by 48 as well.
Oh, wow. So you usually paint large scale?
I love working large, and I will, because a lot of times people will say people don't have the room in their homes or whatever for the big pieces, and I try working small. It takes me 3 times as long to paint a small painting as it does a large painting.
Really?
And, yeah, I can't say what I want to say in a little piece.
So it's almost like it makes it harder because you're having to force yourself to try to condense these ideas and do it miniature style. Yeah. That makes sense. That's cool. So that's really interesting, because I always think of large scale of like, oh, it would take a long time. Like I've never worked in acrylic or oil, but I do a lot of watercolor, which is
that's hard to do.
Yeah,
watercolor's rough.
I love it. I think it's so much fun. But so that's kind of where my head goes, thinking like, oh my gosh, this large painting, trying to cover all of that with watercolor, it'll take forever. But especially if you're using your hands, I can imagine like you just kind of spread it all out and it just there. That sounds kind of fun. Like finger painting almost, but way cooler. That's really cool.